All right, let's dive into some winners and losers on day two. In terms of teams, Ryan, who is your biggest winner on Friday?
Akeem, I'm going to go with the Cowboys. The Cowboys came into this draft with a ton of needs, almost all of them on the defensive side of the ball. On day one, they traded down, got some extra picks for day two, and they got Micah Parsons, the top 5 talent, in the middle of that round. Then on day two, what do? Look at this. Defense, 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 defense. 2 cornerbacks, including Kelvin Joseph, the Kentucky standout who transferred from LSU. Oza Odigizua out of UCLA, who can play inside and even outside if you want. Chauncey Golston, the edge rusher at Iowa. And then they got another cornerback, Deshaun Wright, to wrap it up. This says to me, we understand what our needs are. We know that Dak Prescott's going to be back and healthy. He can't score 50 points a game, so our defense has to be much improved. This is a great step in the right direction in a division that's not very good. If you win 9 games now in a 17-game schedule, you're going to be in great shape, and I think the Cowboys knocked it out of the park.
Well, Hakeem, you're going to love my biggest winner of day 2. Unfortunately, I have to humble myself down and be straightforward. The Cleveland Browns won day 2 of the draft. Andrew Berry, he's been in the zone. His ability to evaluate talent and get talented players in their building has been so consistent. I mean, Jeremiah Owusu, many people felt he was a first rounder, a for sure first rounder, a Swiss Army knife. If football had 5'2" players, he would be a 5'2" player. You can utilize him in so many different ways. He's instinctive. He plays fast. He attacks the football. He's not an issue in coverage. He does everything you would want your defender to do plus more. So that was a win. And then you go and get the fastest wide receiver in the draft, and Anthony Schwartz. Listen, do not pay any attention to his numbers or the lack thereof at Auburn. This is a guy, in my opinion, he will be a better pro than college player, because we know about the woes, the quarterback woes that we've seen from Auburn over the last few years. He wasn't able to develop and be the productive, impactful player that many thought he could be. But with that speed, when you run a for sure 4.25, and on a bad day you still can run a 4.31, you're super fast. He's what my uncle would say, he's eye blink fast. You blink your eyes, how fast you can do that, that's how fast Anthony Schwartz is. And man, look out when he gets in that lineup, man. Baker Mayfield better warm up that play 60 arm, because he's going to have to let it fly.
B-Mac, you won 2 Super Bowl titles with the Steelers, but I'll allow it. You can jump on the Browns bandwagon right now. Come on, the water's warm.
No. I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. That bandwagon is broke already. You don't have any wheels. It's not going anywhere. I tip my hat to you now. You're going too far, all right, Hakeem? I already tipped my brim on.
I'm just welcoming you in, as are the Cleveland fans there right behind you. They'll just welcome you with open arms.
They go.
They'll give you a snuggie when you're cold.
They already left the party.
Look, I'm going to make sure I tell them. I'm going to tell them, B-Mac, loved it. All right, as for the biggest loser on day 2, Ryan, which team didn't help themselves out enough?
I think the conversation for me starts with the Houston Texans. And so let me see what they did in the first round. Oh, they didn't have a pick. How about the second round? Nothing. What did they do in the third round? They drafted a quarterback, Davis Mills. You talked about that earlier, Akeem. Is the quarterback the biggest need in this team? B-Mac said earlier they signed Tyrod Taylor. They signed Ryan Finley. They have Deshaun Watson. Taking Davis Mills as your first pick when you have millions of other needs says, obviously, that Deshaun Watson doesn't feel like he's long for this organization, which is a huge turn of events for one of the best players in the NFL. And then with their next third-round pick, they get Nico Collins. They had a need at wide receiver. My issue with Nico Collins is that he didn't play quite as fast as he ran when he was at the Senior Bowl and at his pro day when he ran in the 4.4s. If that is how he turns out in Houston, that's a great get. But I didn't see that on tape. He struggled with separation, sometimes struggled at the catch point. And if you don't have a quarterback to get you the football, it doesn't make much difference who's running those routes anyway. So I think the Houston Texans, I don't think they've gotten better over these last 2 days, and that's a huge concern when you're trying to do exactly that and have swirling questions about your franchise quarterback.
Well, the biggest loser for me, they had the best setup. If you look at the Rams setup in Malibu, or wherever it was out there in La La Land, it's unbelievable. But when you talk about what they did in the draft, they lost the draft. Didn't have a pick in the first round, had a pick in the second round. They went out and got Tutu Atwell. Talented, fast player, but he weighed in at 149. And then when you look at the wide receivers they already have, we know about the top 2 guys, and Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp. Van Jefferson can play football. They just signed Deshaun Jackson as well as the number 4 best case scenario. Then you go get Tutu Atwell. I feel like they could have addressed other needs of that team. And then you go get an undersized linebacker in Ernest Jones. We know about the linebacker woes for the Rams. This has been well documented over the last few years. They haven't been able to find that firm point of attack guy that can be a disruptive, not just in pass coverage, but also in the running game. So going to get Jones definitely it raised my eyebrow. And I think when you look at the limited amount of resources they had in day 2, they didn't utilize those resources well.
I'm just going to give you quickly my winner of the NFL draft thus far, Alabama. 8 of the first 38 picks, Alabama prospects. That was the most of any single school in an NFL draft. 8 players drafted in the first 2 rounds. That's incredible. All right, the third and final day of the NFL draft kicks off on Saturday, noon Eastern, rounds 4 through 7. Ryan, who's the prospect to watch going into the final day of the draft?
Hey, King, quickly, you mentioned Alabama and all the success they had this draft. I'll give you another fun fact. The 2017 class at Alabama has 40 players drafted into the NFL. Think about that for a second. That's the answer to the question of that college team could end up beating the NFL team. Anyway, the guy that I like going into day 3 is a guy that I had a 3rd-round grade on, Jabril Cox, the linebacker at LSU. Transferred from North Dakota State once the season was canceled because of the pandemic. Played alongside Trey Lance there. Came to LSU and was a leader from day 1 and balled out on the field when he finally got there. He's a tad undersized for the linebacker position, but he can play in the slot. He can play apex defender. He can guard tight ends and running backs. He's versatile and sort of what we're looking for in these hybrid defenders, but he hasn't heard his name yet called, which I actually was sort of surprised by. So I think he should be one of the names that we hear early in the 4th round on Saturday.
Well, the prospect for me to watch day 3 is Kenneth Gainwell, a guy who decided to opt out last year. Talented running back from Memphis. When you look at his tape in 2019, I mean, he was a part of a very explosive Memphis offense, and he was a big-time contributor to their success. I felt like he was the best pass-catching running back in this draft. I'm surprised to see him still available, but their team that decides to pull the trigger on Kenneth Gainwell, they're getting a football player, not just a running back, a football player. He returned kicks there at Memphis. He caught passes for Memphis. He ran the football for their offense. He can do a lot of different things for your offense, and I just can't wait. I'm excited to see the team that gives him an opportunity, because you look at the success that Antonio Gibson had last year for the Washington Football Club. One would say Kenneth Gainwell was more explosive than Gibson when he was there at Memphis. So he's a talented player, so look out for his name to be called early in day 3.
Bryant McFadden, Ryan Wilson, the 2 newest Cleveland Browns fans joining us here on CBS Sports HQ.
No, we never said that.
I did.
We never said that.
And I did. I can cut you off right now, too, because I'm hosting this. Thank you. That was great. Hey, for all things NFL, pair of powerhouse podcasts. We never cut the mic from B-Mac. Join the 2-time Super Bowl champ and his pal Vikings corner Patrick Peterson on All Things Covered. Their latest guest, former Washington receiver Santana Moss, who goes in-depth on his Hennessy game against the Cowboys. Great listen there. And for round-by-round reaction to the draft, join host Will Brinson and his super friends Ryan Wilson and John Breach on the Pick 6 podcast. Download and subscribe today. Still ahead, plenty more reaction to day 2 of the NFL draft. Former NFL quarterback Brady Quinn breaks it down, plus our resident draft professor Pete Prisco hands out his grades. Next on CBS Sports HQ.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.